Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome everybody to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, with a podcast for women over 50 with me, Eden, and Christine is here too. Christine is a professional organizer and will share a random organizational tip at the end of this episode. And I want to tell you right now, this episode may have some trigger alerts, as they say, but we're going to try not to make it too deep, too dark. I mean, I think you can't avoid that.
You can't avoid it. Sorry,
everyone.
Talk
about trauma and how,
yes,
because today the release date of this episode is 9/11.
Yeah.
And so that was something that a lot of people who were adults when that happened, like you and I were, it was very traumatic at the time. And then there's a whole generation and then some of people who it's just always been something that had happened.
Yeah.
And so what we want to really talk about here are how we're so desensitized, but we're not. In other words, we think that this is just something we've all lived through, but we're not really giving ourselves the care to say, that was a traumatic event.
Absolutely.
I mean, we weren't there on the scene. Some of us were pretty close. Some of us may have lost people. Some of us may, but whether it's 9/11, and we'll talk about some other newsworthy events that traumatized us all, and some that were just more specific to us. Mm-hmm. But you almost don't give yourself, like, if you were to sit down with a therapist right now and talk about your life, you wouldn't include that because we've all been through it.
Right.
We all did that. But shouldn't you? Because it is something you went through.
Yes.
I mean, you wouldn't think to say it, but you did go through it.
Well, you know why I agree with you on this? Because every single year, somehow, I don't know if I'm a glutton for punishment or what, but I watch one of the things that's running on National Geographic Channel or wherever on one of the, and without fail, I sob uncontrollably. And I'm like, I think I have some unresolved issues on this, because it's like it happened yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, I get so emotional on 9/11. I don't feel like celebrating anything on 9/11. I just feel like it's still a day of mourning for me personally. Yeah. So yes, I agree with you. I think people just stuff it away like we all do when traumatic things happen and hope it never rears its ugly head. But every 9/11, it rears its ugly head. And I don't know about you, but the younger people who've never lived through 9/11, you kind of get almost annoyed that they're like blasé about it, but it's not their fault.
Well, I mean, it's the same way when we heard about things like Pearl Harbor and D-Day and,
or JFK.
Or JFK.
Said, yeah.
We weren't grown-ups that had to understand that this literally was happening in the moment it was happening.
Right.
So, and there have been so many things throughout history like that. I mean, tsunamis and earthquakes and the flooding and, recently. And I mean, the stories are just horrible. And we've both put together some things that I don't think we're giving, I don't want to say credit, because credit's not the great word, because on the one hand, we talk about, everything is not traumatic, it's just a bad day. And that is true for a lot of things.
Right.
But then you also have to respect what we've been through.
Well, like you were saying when we were talking earlier, it's how did that change everything in your life? I mean, how we go to airports now, it was never like that. You never had to do all the airport things that you have to do now. And that's kind of a big pain.
And while it's a big pain and it's inconvenient, when it first started happening, it felt so scary. Now it feels like a pain in the...
Right.
But at the time, you weren't even thinking about it feeling like a pain. I remember once I had to dump some breast milk that I had brought with me in a bottle.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
It's just, it was so scary.
And also one thing about 9/11 that I don't think enough people, well, they may talk about it, but I just haven't heard about it, is how close everyone felt to each other. I remember going to the grocery store like 3 days after 9/11. Everyone looked the same. It was like The Walking Dead, just sad. They looked like they'd been crying. Everybody was so nice. everybody was so friendly and so nice, almost like a wink of the eye, like, I get ya, I hear ya,
Yeah.
I'm feeling it too. It just, everyone, there was no politics. You know, everybody was just together, and like, we all had a secret that we all knew about together. And you don't get that anymore. You know what I mean? It was a time where everybody was sad and struggling on how to cope with it. You know what I mean? So I think it changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think it changed a lot with your innocence for your kids. Like, I remember going, oh my God, what if they were like, you know, you started to what if everything because your kids were young, and you're like, oh my gosh.
And that kind of brings us to some of these other life events that are traumatic. And granted, they're more traumatic geographically or physically if you knew somebody, but there have been so many school shootings.
Ugh.
Obviously, I mean, I'm trying to pull this out. This isn't pulling this out of the deep and dark here, but you know, for me, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in Parkland, Florida, was that high school wasn't built when I was a kid, so all those kids went to my high school. So that's a lot of my friends have kids there, or had kids there when that happened several years ago, because it was a high school and my age had high school kids. So that was a traumatic thing for the country. There's always one in your geographical area, I hate to say.
Well, it was in my daughter's school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's one that happened locally here where we are in Jacksonville, Florida.
And my daughter was there.
And the student shot and killed
his principal. Yeah. Yeah, it was the worst day of, I mean, I didn't think anything could top 9/11. I really didn't. But, you know, I never in a million years thought that would happen at my own daughter's school. Never. If you would have said that, I would have said, you're crazy. Okay. And to get a text from my daughter saying, we're under our desks, they've locked the doors, there's someone outside shooting. And I said, first of all, I thought she was, I thought she made a mistake.
Yeah.
There's some noises going on, but it's, and I said, if it's a true story, I'm going to turn the TV on and it'll be on the news, the local news. It was on the local news. Now, I'll never forget this. I had a stove repair guy who'd already pulled the whole entire stove out in the middle of the kitchen. And I was so hysterical that I had some random guy consoling me that I've never met in my life.
Let me ask you, when you turned on the news, had it been resolved yet, or was it still ongoing?
No, it was still ongoing.
Okay.
So in my mind, I said, I'm just going to get in my car and drive.
Yeah.
Even though I knew they wouldn't let me near there in my mind. But I said, I don't care if I have to get out and walk the rest of the way. It could be a 15-minute walk. I'm going to do it. And you know me, I don't like exercise.
I know.
So he said, you go. I mean, he could have stolen
This
my
is
whole
the oven guy.
Yeah, the oven guy. I'll put it back. And I'll fix it and put it back while you're gone. So I jump in my car, and I don't even remember driving. That's why you should never drive during
Probably
traumatic
not.
events. And I realized that because you don't even remember doing it.
No.
I mean,
Muscle memory got you there.
Yeah, I just drove straight. I mean, that's all I knew, just drive straight. And I was trying to get in touch with my husband, but he was in court where his phone was off. So I got in touch with his secretary. I was an absolute wreck. And then they resolved it. It was very
terrible.
sad. And then they escorted all the kids to the parking lot that drove, and she was in 10th grade, or 11th grade, so she was a driver. So I turned around, she said she was already in her car on the way. And I can tell you don't, thank God none of the students, but that principal was one of the nicest people you'll
Very
ever
beloved.
meet. Beloved by everybody. And so many people saved the kids that day that are heroes that, every one of these, I think now my daughter is in private security, and she was one of, I think, 5 other women doing a video on women in security, and part of her video was how she was involved in a school shooting and she's never forgotten it, and how this is why she chose this career, is to protect other people. And so I think people don't realize, how these things affect you forever. It's forever. Like, even talking about it, I get choked up, because all these kids now come to my house as adults and they have just compartmentalized it. They don't even really talk about it. They don't think about it. They barely remember it. And so I think that's what trauma does to you. You can't put one foot in front of another if you don't somehow put it in a compartment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And trauma, nobody is giving points for who's suffered it the hardest.
No.
So trauma is trauma. So on the one hand, you could say, well, she was there. She was there. But that doesn't make it not traumatic for a kid at another school now is worried that it's going to happen there because they saw this on the news. It's traumatic for
everybody.
Millions of people who saw this story when it went worldwide. It was a very big story.
Well, and I also think, I remember my daughter the next day when she was very upset, very upset. And she said, if only I would have sat with him at lunch, because he always ate alone.
Oh, see, you can't.
And I was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't. You can't second guess that. But that's just another piece of it.
Yeah.
That's a piece of trauma. And,
right.
If we had a psychologist or psychiatrist on the show right now with us, we could get into that. But that's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to solve it, cure it, name it. We're just trying to explain to you that whether if someone said to you, have you had any trauma in your life? And your answer was no, we're here to say, really? Because I think you have, and you're just not even recognizing it as what it really is.
I so agree
might not
with
be
that.
First degree,
right?
But it's traumatic. COVID was traumatic. It was a life-changing, difficult situation.
Well, COVID's so traumatic that when I was telling my husband what we were doing for this episode, I read my list and he goes, "What about COVID?" I didn't even have that on my list because it was so traumatic for me. Yeah. Because we were living in a rental that we had to be out of by May 1st.
And the girls came home.
So we're all living in a teeny tiny rental that we thought just me and my husband would be living in for a renovation. They had already ripped out the ceilings, ripped out the walls, ripped out everything. So we're like, I don't think they're going to be able to put this back together.
And for all you knew, it was going to be a 5-year deal.
Right. Like, what if everybody goes home and doesn't come back for, whatever. And so then the girls, two adult daughters who you never thought would live with you again, are fighting like they're 12. I mean, the whole thing was just so traumatic.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember being here. We're recording this at the TV station where I work. And I remember that first memo saying that we were going to have some work from home time and we're going to spread out more. And I'm like, really? It's that big of a deal? And then this is a news station.
Right.
And I was just like, wait, oh, wow. This is hitting us. This is happening.
You know when I really got worried? When my husband got worried. My husband...
Uncluttered and Unfiltered is supported by Hearts for Minds. Mental health doesn't have to be a silent struggle. Hearts for Minds is changing the conversation, breaking stigma, and building bridges to better mental health care. Through QPR training and awareness programs, Hearts for Minds is equipping communities with the tools to recognize warning signs and connect people to life-saving support. Whether you're facing a crisis or just need someone who understands, Hearts for Minds is your helping hand. Hearts for F-O-U-R, minds.com. That's heartsforminds.com. And join the movement. Together, we can save lives.
Doesn't worry about anything. That's my job.
He's your person.
He's my person.
I have people like that in my life too. That
he is
they're
my
not
person
worried
about
I'm not
anything.
Worry. Yeah,
nothing worries him. Not one thing.
But when they get worried, boy, whoop.
Even 9/11, he was like, it's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
they're your
it's going to
rock.
be okay. Yeah, he knew he had to be like my rock for that because I was a wreck. This, no, he was worried.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, then I was really quadruply worried.
Mm-hmm.
And then also my mom was
gonna
older, so
say,
then I
aging
worried that my
parents.
mom was going to get COVID, and she's elderly, so I'm like, that's not good. And, but what I did is what I always do. I go into the mode of just stay busy.
Yeah.
Busy, 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 busy. So I still worked. I still had to do stuff.
How did you work? Because
I-
you and I, that's so interesting. I know you and I did some things where
Oh, we
you,
did a couple
we
things.
did work together
Yes,
because
we
you
worked
would record
together.
them at your house.
Yes.
And just send them to me. We would put them on TV here.
I was recording from my rental house.
Yeah. So you still work, but what about for your clients? Did you go to their
No.
homes?
Well, you know what's funny? The first 5 months, like from February 2020 to like June 2020, no, everybody was freaked out. But
Yeah.
then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
the seas parted. I don't know why, and I didn't ask because I needed to stay busy. Everybody wanted, and then I figured it out. No one wanted to sit home with all their crap anymore because they couldn't
Right.
go out. So they're like, I can't do this even another day with my husband home, all our crap in here. It was like double whammy. So they were like, just come, I'm begging you. So then I got the busiest I'd ever been in my whole life for like a year and a half. I mean, just everybody could not stand it. People were downsizing, people were buying new houses. Just, it was crazy.
Yeah, the market went nuts.
The market went crazy. So I kind of had the PTSD, whatever it is. After I was back in my house, everything was put together. All the workmen finally left, which took forever. And I had like a mini meltdown. I was like, I never let myself have that moment because I thought if I have it now, I'm in big trouble. And I just gave myself the grace to spend like a few days being really, really glad it was coming to an end, almost like things were turning and, but I don't know about you. I always like to give myself a little bit of grace and then I pick myself back up and get on with life.
I call them wallower days. Like, I'm just
Right.
going to wallow in my
Yes.
sad. Let me just be sad today. Let me
Right,
just be,
right.
And,
Right.
And so, okay, so we've knocked out a couple of life events. What are some of the other things that you feel were like super traumatic that are just maybe newsworthy events where we can all really think, you know what, we were all in that together. We just didn't know each other.
I think the Challenger.
Oh, I remember. You obviously remember where you were. I was in class.
Because you're younger than me, I was going to work and I'll never forget. I even thought to myself, it is freezing cold in Florida, which it never is, ever. But it was in the 40s in Florida. And I thought to myself, how is that rocket going to take off when it's so cold? Because they said it had been icing, in the morning, that there were ice warnings, whatever, just in the whole state of Florida. It was so cold. And I was wearing the cutest outfit. I will never forget
You remember what
this.
you were wearing?
Yes, because you can't wear boots in Florida because it's so hot normally. So I had these knee-high boots on with this like cute skirt and a big sweater, like heavy sweater, like it was 20 degrees out. And I literally got to work and heard about it. And I thought, this is the most tragic thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but it was just so sad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just the idea. Yeah.
And I see on TikTok all the time, you think you have trauma. I was like in third grade and they wheeled out the projector to watch the teacher go up in space and then it exploded and they wheeled it back out and kept teaching. I mean, that's kind of how it was.
Yeah, people
like,
just didn't.
They didn't understand
Yeah.
or what to do with it.
Yeah. Ugh. Just the thought of it. I remember sitting in the classroom. I was at University of Florida, and a kid in the class had on a radio. He had headphones on in the class. I don't know why, if we were doing something why he would do that, but he announced it. Like, he interrupted the class and was like, I just want to tell you guys that the challenge.
Oh my
yeah.
God. That would be even.
Yeah, everyone's like, what? First of all, why
Right,
are you listening
right,
to the radio
right,
right now?
exactly.
And also, yikes.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh. I also have Adam Walsh.
Okay, I'm glad you brought that up because I remember that very clearly. That's really the first time, and that's John Walsh from America's Most
Right.
Wanted. Is that the one?
Yeah,
show?
America's Most Wanted.
I remember there would be, you'd start seeing signs everywhere for missing kids. That's where you really started to realize this could happen to a child, because I was a child, and I was
Right.
like, what?
Right. And I remember seeing him on like Good Morning America, talking before they knew he had passed away.
Right.
And begging for him to be returned and people trying to find him.
What year would that have been?
Gosh, I was in college, I think.
Okay, so I wasn't that. Wouldn't have been a child
But I was
then.
from
High school.
Florida. So, I still
was
went
big.
back and forth,
Yeah.
because I was in college. I might have been a freshman, I think, in college.
Because I remember the news headline was, "The head is Adams."
Oh,
and I still to this day remember that teaser coming up tonight. "The head is Adams." It was
And
like-
I think that moment of the whole Adam Walsh thing, especially if you lived in Florida, but it was it was everywhere.
Sure.
But they had like the code Adam at all the stores now.
Right, yeah. But also I remember, because leading up to it, you would see all the signs, all the signs that he
Right.
was missing. And then, so you felt like you knew him. So then when you heard the news after,
Yeah.
that
It
was very traumatic.
And also, I think that was a lot of loss. I wasn't a mother at that time, but I know moms
Mm-hmm.
who were like, they didn't even imagine they'd be going to the mall or whatever, and something that tragic could happen. And I think it really affected America, like the world, that now you can't leave your kid for 1 second, not even a half a second, because you never know who's waiting, to just snatch them. And I think that is a loss of innocence for a lot of America, that you didn't have before the whole Adam Walsh thing. Not to say it didn't happen, but this was just so public. I mean, really so public.
And so many things that happen these days, we are desensitized
Right.
to because of the internet, because
Right.
everything. Like what's happening in every community, not
Right.
just your own.
Right, exactly.
But for us, we were in South Florida.
I mean, I think living in Florida, you couldn't get away from it. And
Yeah.
and the guy that was accused of it was also like a Florida serial killer, so you heard all about him all the time. I don't know.
Yeah, tragic.
Speaking of serial killers,
Ted Bundy.
yes, that was another traumatic thing for the FSU sorority killings that was affected everybody. I think life changed. I was in a sorority in college, and everyone's like, you have to have your Bundy stick in the door. You have to no propping the door, or you got a fine, to come in the sorority house. Like, things were different then. They used to keep the door propped open. No one really paid attention until after those sorority killings. And I watched a Hulu documentary over the weekend that just came out on the Ted Bundy tapes but they relived the whole Ted Bundy thing with one of the survivors from the sorority. And I mean, oh my God. I mean, when you're younger and you're busy in your own life and you have young kids, you don't really pay attention to every little detail. But when you're older, I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that was life altering and changing for people. And he turned out to be a serial killer too. So,
Right. Exactly.
Anyway, boy, this is a cheerful
This
episode.
is a cheerful episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do we have to do any more? I think we can maybe.
I think we can wrap this up.
Yeah, let's just call it, because we could go on and
Yeah.
on with these kinds of stories. But the message is this: we've all been through it. You can have the sunniest life,
Yeah.
but we've all seen, experienced, and had our lives changed by things that are removed from us, but
Yeah.
at the very same time they get in your head and they play with you. So let's clean that out. I do want to ask you, kind of along those lines, and this, by the time this airs, this is we're recording this in August, I'll be honest, but Dateline Live has been announced. There's going to be a live event, Dateline, happening, and you've made the choice to be with your daughter as
Who's
she gives
having
birth,
a baby,
instead of doing what you really have wanted
which
your
is
whole
hang
life
out
to
with
do.
Keith Morrison. Okay.
Yeah, a chance to be in the same little room as Keith Morrison.
I mean, I really did, but I said, no, my daughter is having my granddaughter, which nothing trumps that, even Keith Morrison from Dateline.
All right.
There'll be another
choices
time.
were made.
Choices were made.
All right, let's have that random organizing tip.
Okay, so since we're like going down kind of the memorabilia path, we are going to talk about yearbooks. And this one's very, very fresh. Not only for a client that I had who put me on speaker with her son and said, what do I do with all your yearbooks? And he asked her if she could burn them. And I said, well, that's new. I've never heard that one. But clients do that all the time. They put their kids on speaker with me, and I love listening to them say, I don't want your crap. I don't know, you know. And then I was reorganizing a closet of mine upstairs, and I stacked up all the yearbooks from both my kids. And it was almost up to my waist because my one who was pre-internet had one from early K all the way to 12th grade because that was, you know, and the other one, she's of the digital world. So she had 4 or 5. But I told him, that's it. Come get your yearbooks or they're going in a dumpster. I mean, I can't tell you how much. I mean, to imagine they went up to my waist. That's how much room yearbooks take up.
Imagine how heavy that is to move if you were moving
and
homes.
Not only that, that didn't include my yearbooks from when I was in lower school and I was in middle school and I was in high school. So you really have to pick and choose. Are you going to be the storage unit to all your kids' stuff because they claim they don't have the room, even though a lot of over 50 people have downsized and they don't have the room? And really, if they don't want them, why are you holding on to them? If they want them, they should come get them. And I mean, I just have a feeling like even my own yearbooks, I've already said they're going in a dumpster. The minute I'm gone, they're plank, you'll hear it on the bottom of the metal of the dumpster. No one wants my yearbooks. I don't really want my yearbooks anymore either, if we're going to be quite honest with you. I really contemplated yesterday of dumping them, but I think for us, people used to write in them.
Yes.
And that's different than the yearbooks they get now where no one writes in them. At least 4 of them of my daughters, nobody had written in them because it was now digital time. So honestly, look how many yearbooks you're saving. Your husband's, yours, your kids. And if you've got more than 2 kids, you might as well have a yearbook closet. I mean,
whole library.
You know, a whole library. So pick and choose, give away what is not yours, and let your kids know it's time to come claim your own things. Now, if they're in college, I get it because they still come home a lot and they aren't living in their own place. But if they're out on their own, they're married, they have their own house, their own apartment, come get your yearbooks, please, honey.
Okay, there you go. So, you know, with a heavier than normal episode, we close with something bright and perky like dumping your yearbooks. So with all of those big, heavy books full of people you couldn't tell if they walked in the room who they were.
Right, who you wouldn't be able to.
You can let that go.
And don't look back.